If you ever wanted to get started with Claude Cowork, this is a great session for you because we're going to talk about a lot of things from the basics all the way up to some of the advanced stuff. Now, Claude Cowork is one of Anthropic's products, and you can access it by downloading the Claude app on your desktop. Now, in this video, we're not going to start with the installation process. We're going to assume that you already installed it. But what I do want to focus on is give you a workflow so you can use Claude Cowork across all your projects. We're going to start from the very basics so you can learn the terminologies, you can understand how things work, and we're going to build that up to what I call Claude Cowork workstations. Once you have a working Claude Cowork workstation, you're going to find that a lot of the work that you normally do is going to get a lot easier and you can get more organized than ever before. You're also going to wonder how you ever work without it. As AI gets deployed across organizations, work, school, everything, we're going to need a system that we can stay organized, but also a system that is scalable enough so that we can work with other applications as well. So sit back, grab a drink. I'm going to show you everything you need to know. As always, make sure you hit like and subscribe and hit that bell notification icon so that you know when I make the next video. I do have a little pen here, so you guys will see me writing on the slides here as well. So it'll be a little bit interactive. My name is Saul, and in this lecture, I guess you want to say, I'm going to show you how to set up Claude Cowork workstations. Okay. Obviously, the AI tool that we're using is Claude Cowork. If you haven't downloaded, that's okay. Don't worry. We are just going to talk a little bit about theory in the beginning. So that's what today's agenda is. Just spend a little bit of time on theory. This will give you kind of caught up on some of the capabilities and kind of the benefits of working for Cowork. So I'll try to sell it to you a little bit too. And then we're going to talk about sort of the workstation idea that I have about using and why we should do it this way over the other. We're also going to do a little project. I think I might as well. And the project I want to do is sort of make an article, a Substack article in a kind of a brand voice. And so if we're going to set up something like Workstation, we might as well just use it in the session and just do something with it. And that's where it's going to lead us into the practical section. We're talking about Claude MD. We're going to talk about Memory MD. Um, and then we're going to set up the station. I'll also talk about how to make a skill. I think this is a very good thing to do. Claude has a built-in skill creator. So how can we use it to kind of make a skill? And by the way, just so I know, I will keep an eye out on the side here. I have the chat window open. So if you have a question, feel free to drop it in. And then I will look at it. And then we'll also do a question and answer at the end as well. Okay, so I'll leave some time for that. So let's get started here. Okay, so this is a quick background story. Um, so I'm gonna just pull in. Can you see the cowork here? I just want to make sure everyone can see it. Just throw it a yes or a thumbs up, just so I can see you guys can all see it. Perfect. Okay. So here we go. When we are working with cowork, it doesn't, this is the main basically window for Cowork, okay? And when you install Cowork, you get these three different tabs. You can do the chat, Cowork, and code. We won't talk about these two so much. We're focusing on here, but that's what the interface looks like for Cowork. And when you're working with it, it doesn't actually have native memory. If you have some work that you do with it, you actually link it to a particular folder within your desktop and it will work out of that folder, but it won't remember things. So it doesn't have this native memory. So what Anthropic did is they created something called projects over here. Okay. And the idea behind projects was why don't we create a place where people can just work on specific things and then we'll have a built-in memory and they can just kind of store everything inside there. So basically it seems like a great idea. So we have new project here and you can create from scratch. You can import a project, so bring in from a chat that you're already working or to co-work. Okay, sometimes you don't want to repeat things, that you've already been working on in the Claude chat version, right? And the other thing is you can use an existing folder. So what does it look like when we create it? Here's the project name, and you put in some information. You can add some files, and you basically set up location. So Cowork essentially works out of a folder in your desktop, okay? And all of its content. It is not a cloud-based thing where it sends stuff to the cloud like the chat version, okay? The problem here is two things. One of them is that you are basically dumping all the projects. You see, there's no folder structure. You're dumping everything inside this co-work area. And that's okay. Like I have a few of these here. But the problem becomes where when you have like 20, 30, and now you got to sort through them and find all your projects. I don't know why they didn't do a folder structure, but this is where we are with this. And then the second problem, so organization is the number one thing. It's like you're gonna have, for instance, a project around, let's say, fitness in my case, because you can do personal stuff, right, on it too. You can have a project on your business, you can have a project on a customer's, a client work, and your client might have different projects underneath. Full structure is really important here. I don't know why they didn't do it. The second problem is this. So here's, we're gonna go into this. Memory. I mentioned we store memory in Claude Cowork because that was the problem. So when you have these chats, what you do is you just say it says ask Claude to remember something and it'll save it here. Okay. And so what'll happen though is that your memory work is lives within this Cowork area. And um, the problem is that if you decide to get stuff out of Cowork and you want to maybe work on it with Codex or you want to work with it with Claude Code, the memory is inside this environment, and so it doesn't allow you to to take it out. And if you forget, for instance, to do that, it's again it's stuck here. Um, all your chat conversations. And we are moving into a world where it's not going to be about, oh, I'm going on vacation, so let me send my stuff to the cloud, and then so I can access it from my laptop that I can carry on with me. We are going into a world where um, I gotta have my AI agent have access to my desktop so that I can access my desktop stuff. So we might be going into a situation where having a very large hard drive and having our agents like OpenClaw have access at any time we want to access stuff into it, not necessarily going into the cloud where there might be some barriers to access certain things. So this is where I was like, we need a way to make it free to access it and it just doesn't get stuck inside Cowork. And so that's what we're solving here. Okay. All right, moving on. So module one, we're going to talk about some theory. Okay, so introduction. This is obviously I see a lot of people who are brand new to Cowork. The thing about the benefits of Claude Cowork is one of them is just file limitations. When you're working with the chat interface, when I say chat, I'm talking about just the regular Claude chat. When we're working here, we have a 20 file limit that we can upload and a 30 MB limit on each of those files. And so this makes it obviously not convenient if you're working with larger projects, if you're doing like financial reports and stuff like that, you need to upload an entire year's worth of the information, like files. This is not going to work. That's where Cowork comes into this because it is not sending stuff to the cloud. And these limitations is working off of your desktop. And so these limitations go away. The other thing is that Cowork delivers ready to use output. When you're using the chat, the conversation that you have is very task based. Okay, you're not necessarily uh, going to get a final result of what you're doing. With Cowork, it is designed to give you a final output. So you want to think about the output, the end result in mind when you're having a prompt conversation with it, when you're giving it a prompt. So for instance, the difference would be like it is outcome based. So you want to say with the cloud chat, you say something like, can you, here's a bunch of files, can you analyze and give me sort of the mean, median, mode, and or give me an analysis of this. Okay, let's say some piece of data. Whereas Cowork, you would say, here's some data. I want you to generate a report for me, put it into my folder, and then send an email to this person about it. Completely different, right? It's a very different types of conversation, and so that's what it's designed for. It is output based, task based, agentic based. You want to say, okay, and that's what we want to use it for. Okay, going to move on here. Again, a little bit more on the introduction side of things. Here are the kind of the top capabilities for work. I mean, there's a few things more, but I don't, just to kind of keep it simple. These are some of the things that is really helpful to know about that it can do as a capability. We talked about local file access. That's very important, especially if you are working with large files. We have persistent memory. We talked about the projects and we said that, you can have the persistent memory. If you're working on something maybe temporary and you just want to quickly just work in the project, it's great for that. Again, you get that memory feature. You can connect to MCPs, very, very important, especially since access to email, calendar can be all automated and the tasks that you do within it. And it can get even more interesting. So for instance, here's Stitch. This is one of Google's products. It's a front end sort of designer that you can make a website with it. It has an NPC. And so if you go to settings, set up MCP. Did I say MPC? I'm just MCP. Sorry. You can set up NCPs, and so you can select whatever Claude code, and then it'll give you what you need, and then you can go ahead and basically with even Claude Cowork, you can set it up and work with it. Higgsfield is another one. You can use this guy to generate images, videos, all kinds of things, and they have basically an MCP to connect with as well. So, these are outside of just what you normally get with Claude. But if you went to the settings here and you go to capabilities, no, sorry, connectors, and you customize and you can do all kinds of stuff like connect. See, all these are some of the things you can connect with as well. I know just for demo purposes, I don't have it here, but uh, um, there's even plugins as well, and plugins are kind of like bundles of stuff. It can be like skills and MCPs all bundled together to complete one type of task. Okay. So that's what skills and skills themselves are. You can think of it as a sort of a repeatable workflow that you can do to complete a certain type of task. So, for instance, if I want, we're going to do this or later today. If I want to create a piece of content and I want it in my brand voice, well, I would basically create a skill that understands how to write this piece of content. And every time I use this skill, I want to write it in that particular way. So you can think of it as basically like a workflow. And we talk about projects and live artifacts is another feature as well. So live artifacts artifacts essentially you can think of it, an example would be sort of like a website, for instance, HTML based website. With live artifacts, you can use these connectors, for instance, email or calendar, and you can create a website that automatically, every time it gets refreshed, it automatically pulls in data. And so you can build dashboards and stuff with that, right? Or a morning briefing where you open it up and it gives you everything you need to know about what's happening. Um, and then scheduled tasks are also another feature as well that you can use is you can automate certain things that you tend to do repeatedly, right? Emails, it can be calendar, checks. You can just go on and on about your use cases, but you can schedule things and basically they live right over here to show you, man, what's going on here? There we go. Scheduled. And you can create a new task here, set up manual, or you can even create it with Claude. And you go here and you do say what you want to do. You can set up the frequencies and all that kind of stuff. All right. So that's the other thing about it. When you're setting up Claude, a few things just to kind of keep in mind is that you want to go into the capabilities. You want to have the search and reference chats, make sure that's on. Usually when you download it, these are all already on anyway, but just to double check certain things they can be on. I have inline visualizations. I'll show you why in a second, but you should have that on if you're working with data and you like to create things like charts and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, just that was just sort of a quick crash course. I know this is not going deep in terms of the setup, but just so you know, these are some of the things that you should be aware of. And then if you want to take a screenshot or whatnot, but later on you can look deeper into it and I can do more sessions on this. Okay. All right. Let's get to the beef of this lecture and what we're trying to do here. I'm going to try to explain it through a diagram and then we'll go into the kind of the folders and stuff like that and to kind of show you more. Okay. Um, okay. How many people, just maybe I want to see in the chat, how many people have worked with Claude Code before? Can you just say, like, if just throw in the chat if you work with Claude Code? I see a hand up. Sorry. Go ahead, please, if you want to just go ahead and ask your question. Dave, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just responding to your question. That's all.
Oh, what was that?
If you've worked with Cowork before, if you've worked with Claude
Oh,
before,
yes. Oh, yes, absolutely.
so I put
Absolutely.
my hand up. That's
Okay.
all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. No problem. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So sorry. No, the reason I called you there because I thought you had a question there. But if not, it's all good. Yeah. So yes, I see a bunch of people saying yes, and maybe not, some people have not, and that's okay. Um, I'm gonna if you work with it, you'll probably it'll be easier to explain. But if you haven't, let me know if you have any issues understanding what's happening. Okay, we have, as I said, when we're working in Claude Cowork, I'm gonna pull it here so we can look at it. We have this interface, and we're working out of a folder. Okay, so we're going to select a particular folder here. Okay, our main folder is considered our root folder. Okay, and I mentioned earlier that we want to kind of organize things so it doesn't turn into this situation where everything is sort of dumped into one place. So we're going to create some kind of a folder structure. Okay, and as a result, these workstations, you can think of it, are inside this folder right here. And each of these are folders. That's why I put an icon folder on it. So this is a folder, this is a folder, and this is inside this. And the project itself is also a folder inside this workstation here. And the reason I call it a workstation is because now you can name this anything you want related to what you're working on. And each workstation can have different projects related to it. So, for example, let's say I have a company and we have finance and we have, let's say, marketing, and we have all these different departments that are working with it. You might decide you want to bundle everything up under this workstation related to this. Or it could be as something more refined. So, for instance, it can be marketing, and then you can say, okay, might be website copy that we want to. This is a project that we want to optimize on is our website. This can be SEO articles. This can be ad articles or ad copy that we want to work on, and these might have different requirements that we want to focus on. And so this is where something called Claude MD comes into play. Okay, I'm just going to focus on this. Claude MD is a standard file that Anthropic has come up with in Claude Code itself, where when you open up Claude Code in a particular folder, it automatically reads this file. MD is Markdown. You can think of it as sort of like a text that is easy for the computer and a human to read. And this is just the type of file that it is. And so Claude MD is the file where it has a bunch of information. It's considered kind of guidelines. And so each of these projects are going to have specific guidelines inside them related to what they're about. So we put it inside this. With with Cowork, it is designed for the average person to not mess around with other files in their directory on their computer. It is sort of, you can say, idiot proof in a way. And as a result, it lives in silos. And the silo that it's working in is in the folder that you are currently working in. So it's not able, unless you give it direct permission, it's not able to go and read files in another folder or make changes within it. This is a little different from Claude Cowork. Claude Cowork has this ability to jump in between folders going up and down more often. And unfortunately, this is not documented very well, but I tested it. And I tested it. You just as an example here, you can see, and I apologize for this little icon. This is a little bug that's happening. But just for this little demo, I just tested it real quick. I have a folder inside here. Just want to show you. So this is my Claude Cowork root. This is my Workstation AI brand articles. And this is my project Substat articles. Okay, that's the full structure. I put a file right here, an MD file, and I started asking questions. I said, "Hey, do you know what this is?" And he just went into a tangent talking about something else. And I said, "It's I have a file in NVIDIA. Do you see it?" But because I am inside this folder, and we'll talk about this in a second, it doesn't know anything about this situation here. So this is something to keep in mind. So as a result, this is kind of a good thing. And the good thing about it is that we can create Claude MD, which is instructions for Claude to execute on every time we're working in this project. It reads it inside each of these projects. Okay. Yes, so so the root folder contains all these workstation. Exactly. Each of these, the root folder you can create in. This gives you sort of a hierarchical organization, and this can be about a particular topic. You decide this can be a particular topic, and this can be a particular topic. And each of these topics might have different projects. And so we're going to put in the Claude MD inside for the just so I don't repeat myself too much. That's what I'm trying to say here. We also have another file, memory. As I mentioned, it doesn't have native memory unless you're working in projects. And so if we want to carry this memory in other places, we might have a memory MD file. And the memory MD file, each of these will have their own memory. And because there's no point of having a memory for this and memory for this, these are completely different, like, sorry, sharing memory between these two things, these are completely different. So if you decide you're doing some textual based work inside this project and you want to store that conversation and that history of what we just did inside this, and then later you want to do code related work, you can then carry this memory easily in your folder structure into Claude Cowork or Codex or whatever else you want to do things. So this is a manual way of doing things versus sort of this, it's sort of like Apple versus Android, you want to say kind of thing, where it's like you get to be a little bit more in control of organizing your work and also carrying your stuff around with you. So you own it essentially. It's not sitting in there. Now, in Claude Cowork, okay, we're talking about Cowork here. There is something called a Claude MD as well, and it is a global Claude MD. It means that it lives inside this folder and it affects everything. And so when you load up Claude Cowork, the first thing it does, it reads the global Claude MD. And if you have other Claude MDs in your structure, you might read it as well. But that's the first thing it does. In the case of Cowork, as you just saw, it doesn't work like that. They've already built something in for you. And so it's called the project instructions. I'll show you where it lives. I'm gonna make this bigger. You're going to go here. You're going to go settings. You're going to go to Cowork. Okay, global instructions, and you're going to dump it in here. This is where your global, and the importance of having a global is that you want to maybe do some things, give it some instructions in the way it works generally. Give you an example. I've already made one here. Um, just going to open it. Here we go. And I'm going to dump it in. And the reason I just wanted to show you, I give it some context, some preferences, right? In professional, conventional tone. I want this across the board, no matter what it's working on. I wanted to do that. Okay. Rules. Clarify a question before starting. So this is that global MD. So for those of you who are not familiar with Cloud MD, this is the global thing. And so, stay organized when I create new files, use it this kind of structure because you can ask it to create files for you. So I'm going to do that. I won't spend too much on this. That was the idea behind this. Okay. And I have here sort of a breakdown of what that looks like. So you got your, just to repeat in case it was a little confusing, Claude Cowork is your root folder, and then you have your workstation, you have the project inside it, and that's how you organize things. Okay. And then over here, what I'm just trying to say is that just try to work things modularly so that you have ability to work with these without having to make them from scratch. So if I make a Claude MD for this project, make a standard one that you might use in this workstation and then modify it for these other projects. You can just duplicate it. You have to make these. So that's what I mean by modularity with these. Okay. Memory itself can also do that as well. You can probably replicate it across all board, and I'll show you what that looks like. But Memory MD is designed. Uh, Here it is. And by the way, guys, you're gonna get all these, so don't worry about trying to like copy it. I'm gonna share resources. You're gonna get it. You can read through it all. But I just have to keep going here. But the Memory MD is designed so that it keeps track of all this stuff. Okay. So example, essentially read this file before doing anything else, right? Blah blah blah. Um, and it when you ask Claude to remember this, it'll go and update this file every single time, and you can play around with it and make sure it does that. Okay. Moving on. Quick thing on brand. If you hate these people or whatnot, this is not the point. The point is what I'm trying to make here is that, building a brand voice and tone inside Cowork is very important. That's one of the things that we're going to work on right now. The reason I have these individuals is that obviously when we see on the media is not who they really are in person. There is a brand persona that gets put out there. But the key thing is that when, for instance, Donald Trump writes a tweet or whatever, or versus Elon Musk writes something, you don't even see a picture of them. You might read it, and they've done such a great job with their branding that you can identify the difference between these two things. And sort of me being very entrepreneurial, I always look at these things and try to apply it as well in some ways in my business, especially when I'm putting out content, so that hopefully over time, when you write something, people know that this is the person. So there's there's some idea about difference between. So if Donald Trump writes out something, Elon Musk, you know that you can't interchange these two people. There's no way, based on the context. You know the difference between how they write. Trump writes in capital letters in certain ways. He says the words MAGA. You know, uh, Elon Musk writes like things like "I want to go to Mars," humanity. They use different kind of words as well. So that's branding. Important of that, of that is that when we're thinking about a customer buying journey, um, these different areas all need a little bit of a different tone as well, and that's what tone is. So brand voice is what I just described. Tone is how you present that information, because you might want to be a little bit more persuasive in the copy that you write in this portion of it. And because the customer is ready to make a purchase and they just need that little bit extra push, versus if they're doing in the informational search section of their journey, in their buying journey, they might be more inclined to pay attention if it's more educational. And the tone of voice is different there. So that's the idea that's what tone is. And so the idea is to engage, influence, and obviously convert customers for the value that you're offering. And the reason I have Dasha, I'm a country music fan, for those of you who don't know. And so Dasha is one of the country music singers. And the problem with the way she works is that whoever's giving her advice is that she makes music with a particular brand of who she is as a person in one type of music, and then all of a sudden a different type of music in a different way. So it's not consistent. And the point of what I'm trying to make here is that staying consistent is very important in your branding. You don't want to all of a sudden change it up, because people then stop trusting you in what you produce, and you get confusing. So that's why it's important to stay consistent on this as well. Okay. And we're going to move on here to the practical. All right, so this is where I'm going to now just kind of do it in front of you a little bit and show you what I have done, and so you can kind of follow along here. Okay, I showed you, I'm going to delete this now because we don't need it. I show you, I showed you the folder structure. I have the Claude Cowork root. We're going to click into it. I made I'm going to what I'm going to do. I'm going to go here too, so you guys can see this, just in case it's confusing. So we have the workstation, and then we have the project. And what I put inside this is the Claude MD, the Memory MD, which is right now nothing in it. And then we have this voice principles as well. So how do I create my voice? Well, I can do this. I wrote a prompt, which I can have a conversation with Claude. You can do this in the chat, and I'll give you guys this as well. Basically, just grab content that you've personally written. So not AI content you've written. And the best place to go is for emails, and just go grab your emails, and then use it to create this voice principles MD. And that's what I've done. And this is what it looks like. Damn it. All right, there we go. Okay. This is what it looks like. This is Claude creating this for me, by the way. Um, I have a tendency to talk a certain way, write a certain way, and it's taken that into consideration, and it's generated this for me. Obviously, you can take a look at this later. I won't go into it, but that's really the idea here, okay? Because the reason I have this is because we're going to kind of make an article, a Substack article using this structure. Now, what do we do? Now that we have this structure, we're going to go to Cowork, and I'm going to go to new task, and we're going to then select, choose our folder here. Now, uh, do we have it here? We do not. So we're gonna say choose a different folder, and I'm gonna go downloads, Cowork root, Substack articles. We're in this article, boom, here. And every time you do that, as you can see, Claude's going to ask you, can I work in this folder? So again, it's very much designed to prevent you from doing mistakes. And now that I'm here, I can basically put in a prompt and say, I am looking to create a Substack article. And I'm just going on a live here for you guys just to kind of see. Uh, um, Please consider the uh, voice principles that I can't type. Um, and I'm gonna now. I'm not recommending to then take what you get and post it, but it gives you a starting point, right? It saves you a bunch of time. That's the idea here. Um, and so if I went to my lectures here, let's say I want to grab all these, throw it here. And because I have the global, it's going to obviously consider that I have a local that is designed to do some things, and it's going to read those as well as part of it. And if it doesn't, we can always play around with it and make sure it does. But right now, the most important thing is that it's considered the voice principles related to this. I can even say, okay, and so we'll watch it, and it'll start to do its thing. And so see, it read the memory MD even if I didn't ask it. Why? Because it was mentioned in the Claude MD, which you didn't see. And it's like you'll see it when you take a look at it. But that was also mentioned is that every time you're reading this, read the memory MD as well. Right? That's how you kind of create a connection between these different files that you have in this folder. So your Claude MD is kind of a portal as well. And so here it's going to ask you, let's say this, non-technical professionals, let's say not so hard CTA, and is going to create this. And all I want to do is I just want this to get created. And then what I'm going to do is just ask it to, update the memory. And that should conclude uh, what I was hoping to achieve with this. session. All right, so now that's obviously running. I don't want it, it'll take a while, right? So I will just continue here. All right, that's it. That's pretty much all I want to cover. I'm leaving a few minutes for discussion. This looks like it's done. Um, and as I said, the resources for this, all of these, I will send an email and you guys just download it. But you guys just go in. Maven has a thing where you can just go in and it'll send it to you. So I'll send you the link and you guys can download it and look through it.